FYF Sports, man. Man, Lamont, man, we back with another podcast video. And today, we just doing another player comparison video. As I promised you guys about a month ago, I was going to do a player comparison based on position. Best player out of the 90s era versus the best player out of our era today. So we're just going to kind of break this down player, not just by player, who the top 5 players were. We're going to break down who was the top player in each position, and we're going to compare them with regards to eras. Before we get started today, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Again, engaging in our videos, engaging in our content. Again, that's what keeps all of this going, man. We appreciate the support that you guys been showing so far. Our videos, you know, on average have been doing pretty good, but we can do better, man. We had a little over 11K subscribers. We should be hitting 11K viewers, 10K viewers every video, y'all. Again, we got to make sure we hitting that notification bell. A lot of you guys ask me questions about videos, and these videos have already dropped. So the only way you make sure you stay up to date with the videos that we drop is you hit that notification bell so you can stay in tune, you can stay in touch with the content that we have here at FYF Sports. But today, man, we're going to break down the 2 top point guards. And again, I have Steph Curry as my top point guard of this era. I have John Stockton as the top point guard of the 90s era. So I'm going to break down why I have selected those 2 players. So we're going to run down just, you know, we're going to give a really quick preview and rundown of each player. And then after we give a quick preview and rundown of each player, we're just going to kind of break down the stats, you know, see what the tail of the tape is, see how their careers unfolded. Obviously, we know that Steph Curry is still playing, so he has a lot more to prove. But, you know, with regards, you know, Steph Curry, he's accomplished a lifetime of things in his career so far, and he still has, you know, 7, maybe 8 more years to go. You know, we never know. And, you know, again, these are the 2 players we got to go with. So, you know, when we break down these 2 players, we got to start with John Stockton, man. We got to start with John Stockton of the Utah Jazz. Now, the reason why I selected this guy as the best point guard of the 90s, again, I like to use my criteria, especially when I look at how 90s fans view the top players, or at least view the top player of the 90s, which was Michael Jordan. The one consistent theme when we talk about Michael Jordan was his record in the finals, the 6-0 in the finals. So obviously getting to the finals, winning championships, that's what matters most, especially when you're trying to nitpick between great players. You know, when some people make that comparison between LeBron and Mike, sometimes it comes down to championships. Mike was the better winner. Mike was the better champion. So when I chose John Stockton, I looked at who was the most successful point guard in the 90s, who won the most, who accomplished the most. And when I look at who got to the finals the most, well, it was definitely John Stockton. John Stockton went to the finals back-to-back years against Michael Jordan and the Bulls. Unfortunately, they were not able to beat the Bulls, but, you know, at least he got there. You know, I know guards like Gary Payton was in consideration. He got there once. You know, there were a few other guards, you know, that we can mention. You know, we got Kevin Johnson of the Suns. But when we look at your career, your longevity, your greatness over the 90s, you cannot deny, you cannot doubt that John Stockton was the best point guard of the 90s, because, again, we cannot just take into consideration stats. Just like when we compare Jordan and Mike, we cannot just use stats alone, because the stats alone are going to be in LeBron's favor due to longevity. We have to use everything. And John Stockton's success on the court, his ability to lead a team, even though he wasn't necessarily the best player on his team, his ability to lead a team, and they were consistently good year in year. I know they had a few first-round playoff exits, but his teams, for the most part, through the 90s, made the playoffs every single year. So he always gave his team a chance to win. So obviously we know John Stockton is going to go down as one of the top 3 passers in NBA history. His ability to pass the ball, his ability to play off the pick and roll was second to none. He probably understood the pick and roll better than any player in NBA history, even including today's game where pick and roll is even more prevalent. So John Stockton, great point guard of the 90s, great career. Definitely the best passer of the 90s. Very solid defender, very underrated defender at that. A lot of people look at his steals numbers and say that was a bit skewed. No, John Stockton was a very, very stout defender. And again, he's my selection for the top point guard of the 90s. We got Steph Curry, man, of the Golden State Warriors, man. This man came out of Davidson University. Again, I love players who kind of get it out the mud, who grind their way, who have to work to where they gotten. Steph Curry, undersized guard, undersized player for his position, came into the NBA with questions with regards to can he stay healthy. Starting early on in his career, he dealt with a number of ankle injuries where people, even the Golden State Warriors doubted his long-term health. He was able to bounce back from those injuries, and as soon as he was able to bounce back from those injuries, man, the man just start putting up unbelievable numbers, essentially changing the game of basketball. He's probably going to go down, and he already is in a lot of people's book, as the greatest shooter in NBA history. But his ability to play make and pass the ball has always been underrated because we always look at his offense. But the man is an extremely good playmaker. He's an extremely great teammate. We know that he has the ability to be the best player on his team. First unanimous MVP this league has ever seen. And again, Steph Curry's greatness, it is something that is going to be remembered for years and years on end, primarily because of how he's changed the game of basketball. He's changed the way that teams defend. Defenses have to be more stretched out. Because of his ability to stretch the court, he allows other players to be even greater. When we talk about Klay Thompson, even when we talk about Draymond Green's ability to score the ball, none of that can happen if Steph Curry's not on the court with his ability to stretch the floor. So we have Steph Curry of the Golden State Warriors, elite shooter, probably the best shooter in NBA history, definitely a champion, definitely a winner. And I'm not sure, again, I think that players like this, we really don't appreciate them until they're retired, until they're out of the game. This is a player right now. We need to admire this type of greatness and understand that this is not something that can be duplicated. This is not something we will ever see again. So make sure whenever the Golden State Warriors play next year, you start to tune in and you need to admire greatness because this man changed the game. He's continuing to do so. And I definitely see this guy winning more championships down the line. All right, so now that we have broke down the tail of the tape, the one thing we like to go to here at FYF Sports is we got to go to the drawing board. The drawing board exposes everything. All right, so as you can see here, we're at the drawing board, man. Again, we got to break down these two players' careers so far. Obviously, we know that Steph Curry still has a lot of work to do in his career. He's at a year 11. Probably has at least another 3 to 4 years of elite basketball in him. In today's basketball, where we know technology is superior, these players can play a lot longer. And with his ability to shoot, he's definitely going to play, up to 17, 18 years if he chooses to do so. So again, we're just going to break down these two players' careers, obviously accolades, stats, playoff careers, and then we just break down the best decision from that point forward on who the more elite player is. And again, when we're talking about two greats, especially of two different eras, we have to nitpick everything. We have to break down all of the finer details, the stats, including their outcomes on the court, their ability to win on the court. So obviously you can see the honors and awards. Steph Curry's a two-time MVP of the NBA. First unanimous MVP ever. And again, I think when we have players in this league like Kareem, Wilt, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, to say that you were the first, even Michael Jordan, to say that you were the first ever unanimous MVP in the NBA, I think that's a great accomplishment. It shows how you were able, your dominance, at least in one season. And Steph's single best season was when he was able to lead the Warriors to their first championship. Again, he completely shocked the league, his style of play. Steve Kerr just kind of unleashed him. Mark Jackson helped build him up. Steve Kerr just unleashed him on the NBA. He brought that championship pedigree in, and he allowed the Golden State Warriors to excel. But Steph Curry obviously beats out John Stockton with MVPs. He has 2 MVPs. John Stockton has none. first NBA selections. Now again, Steph Curry's only in year 11. He's gonna get more All NBA first teams. Again, if he can continue playing at that elite level, as everyone predicts he will. But already, and it's just his 11-year career versus John Stockton's 19-year career, Steph Curry has 3 All-NBA first teams. Now, Steph Curry's made the All-NBA team 6 times in his career, which means 3 of those he was second team. John Stockton, very, very solid, man. 11 to 19 years, you've made an All-NBA team. That's solid. I like that. So, again, John Stockton, consisted in the 90s. On the Utah Jazz team that was always competitive. Now, defensive teams, I keep telling you guys, John Stockton is one of the most underrated defenders in NBA history. All you have to do is go back and watch his tapes. The man was extremely smart on defense. He wasn't the fastest. He didn't have the best foot speed, but the man knew how he understood angles and he understood player tendencies. This is something that Steph Curry has struggled with. In the NBA today, where you can't grab guys, where you can't hand check guys, where you can't slow them down, with your arms and things of that nature, you have to be less physical on defense. Steph Curry has struggled on the defensive end. Now, Steph Curry, the one thing that I do like about Steph Curry on defense is he gives max effort on defense. So although he struggled defensively, I can't knock him because at the end of the day, Steph Curry has given max effort on defense. But again, John Stockton and Steph Curry, I have to give the defensive edge to John Stockton because for a good 8-year stretch in the 90s, he probably was one of the best defensive point guards. And we had guys like Gary Payton in the league who kind of overshadowed him. But a lot of people, and this is one of the reasons why a lot of people forget that John Stockton was an elite defender at point guard in the 90s. Now, scoring leader, obviously Steph Curry. All offensive categories, Steph Curry is probably going to blow John Stockton out the door. Steph Curry is just one of those offensive talents that we will never see before. He's led the league in scoring 1 time. Potentially could have led the league in scoring a lot more if Kevin Durant did not join the Golden State Warriors and he just simply took a back seat to a more elite scorer. Assist leader, John Stockton's definitely. I would say John Stockton's the more elite passer. Better, I would say he definitely has better court vision, better court awareness as far as passing the ball. We've seen Steph Curry make some really, really bad blunders. Sometimes in the playoffs, sometimes in the regular season. When he does try to make plays with that pass, not taking anything away from Steph Curry's ability to pass the ball, but it's just not one of his strongest suits. He's a great playmaker. He's a great passer, but John Stockton is far superior in that particular category, which is why he led the league in assists 9 times. And again, that's domination in the 90s. When you're able to lead one statistical category for the majority of a decade, again, you completely dominated the era in that stat critic. We got to give assists to John Stockton. Steals leader, Steph Curry. Again, the man gives max effort on defense. Now, is he the greatest defender? No. But to go out there and be able to lead the league in steals at least 1 time, for any NBA player, that's an accomplishment. So for the fact that Steph Curry has such an offensive load to carry and he was able to do it 1 time, I have to give him a lot of props for that. John Stockton's led the league in steals twice. Again, very, very underrated defender. I'm extremely surprised he never won a Defensive Player of the Year in the 90s. But again, it just goes to show you how defense, even in the 90s, was really overrated. When we think of defensive players in the 90s, we always talk about the Hakeems, Rodmans, David Robinson, even Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, primarily because of their length, their size, their athleticism. We forget about John Stockton's because, again, the man defensively was gifted. He was extremely gifted defensively. He understood angles. You could tell he studied film. He understood player tendencies, and he was able to stifle opponents because he was able to outthink them. So again, steals leader. Again, they're a wash right there in steals leaders. But John Stockton, again, defensively, he's far superior to Steph Curry. Now, when we go to regular season stats, we know that Steph Curry started his career off slow. He started his career off slow. Due to those injuries, but again, points per game. That's all. Again, all of these offensive stats, as far as scoring the ball, Steph Curry is going to far He's going to blow John Stockton out the door. John Stockton was not necessarily a scoring guard, although he could score the ball. So Steph Curry, 23.5 points a game. John Stockton, 13.1. Steph Curry, 4.5 rebounds a game, 2.7. Now, I really don't want to give Steph Curry the edge. I would say rebounding-wise, that's pretty much even. Primarily because this is kind of the pace of play. So many shots are going up in today's game. There's just so many opportunities for rebounds. But because of the amount of threes that are shot, there's more of an opportunity for long rebounds. So this is why you didn't see a lot of guards in the 90s with really high rebounding numbers, even if they were big guards. So this is because the game, they didn't shoot as many threes. And when you shoot more threes, that means what? It means more long rebounds. So Steph Curry's 4.5 rebounds a game, I'll have to say that's a wash with John Stockton, mainly because, again, the style of play in the 90s and the style of play in this era are different. In this day and age, guards are going to get more rebounds. Why? Because more threes are shot, and when threes are shot, those are long rebounds. And those rebounds typically go to guards. All right, so we got assists per game. Steph Curry. Now, Steph Curry's still a great playmaker, but his job on the team with the Golden State Warriors was to be a scorer. So the fact that he's able to score the ball at the clip that he does and still average 6.6 assists a game, I think that's great. But when we're just talking about straight playmaking and being a floor general, John Stockton, 10.5 assists a game. Now, what I do wish with Stockton, John Stockton was an underrated scorer. I feel is if he would have took less focus off of running the offense so much and actually went and tried to score the ball more, they could have been a more lethal team. But again, he was a floor general. He wanted his coaches, Jerry Shalom, they wanted to play that style of play where he was not the focal point of the offense. And I think that essentially hurt them because they needed him to score more when they played the Bulls. They needed him to score more in even other series when Jordan retired, and they failed to make the NBA Finals as well. So, again, he has a really high assist number, but, again, I think he just went above and beyond his job. I think he did his job too well. I think if he would have stepped back from that pass and roll some and became more of a scorer, that would have helped that Utah Jazz team out, especially with the balance in scoring. They needed just a bit more balance because Karl Malone had to do all the scoring, and everybody else just kind of picked up points as they went along. But John Stockton, 10.5 assists per game. To average 10.5 assists per game for your career is extremely difficult, extremely hard, and John Stockton was able to accomplish that. Steals per game, John Stockton 2.2, Steph Curry 1.7. Again, defense in the 90s was different. A lot, and again, when we have to, just like I was honest about Steph Curry's rebounding numbers and why he may have slightly higher rebounding, I have to be honest about John Stockton's steals numbers. Defense in the 90s was different. Defense in the 90s, you could be more physical. You could grab guys. You could hand check guys. So, is that basketball? Some people say it's not basketball. Some people say it is basketball. But at the end of the day, I don't consider hand checking a skill. Hand checking is something that everybody can do. It does not take a lick of athleticism. It doesn't take any defensive awareness or defensive IQ. It's just something that players do, and it's something that a player will do when you're guarding somebody who's the superior athlete, generally is faster than you, and you need to slow them down. So I don't want to give John Stockton a leg up all the way defensively, because again, they're playing in two different eras. It's two different styles of play. We don't know how Steph Curry would fare in a league if you could hand check and slow guys down. Maybe he would look better defensively, especially because he gives so much effort on the defensive end in this era without hand checking. So again, it's just about being fair. Again, you guys, let me know what you think about hand checking. Is it a skill? Was the NBA right for taking it out the game? I think the NBA was right for taking it out the game. There's a reason why coaches, even the greatest coaches, they say show your hands. There's a reason why coaches say that. Coaches have been saying that even beforehand, even while hand checking was in the game. Why you show your hands? Because you need to show your hands. Because instead of having your hand on a guy, see, when your hand is on somebody and you're hand checking, that means your hands can't actively cover passing lanes. That means if that guard's good enough, he's still going to be able to get the ball wherever he wants, because all you're doing is just putting one arm on him. Passing lanes are wide open. You don't have a hand in his face on the shot. You don't have a hand in the passing lane to prevent him from going wherever he wants on the court. So I think there's a good and a bad to hand checking. Yes, hand checking will slow you down, but hand checking will not stop you from making plays. You will have every opportunity to make all the plays you want with hand checking. So again, I would say, if I'm being honest about these particular skill sets, I would say it's a wash on the steals, with John Stockton being a slightly better defender, but I feel like the steals would balance themselves out if Steph Curry had the opportunity to hand check and play more of an aggressive style on defense. Blocks per game, obviously that's a wash. With point guards, that's not really a category we like to consider. All right, we got total stats here. Now, again, John Stockton, 19 years in the league, 19,000 points. Steph Curry is at year 11 with 16,000 points. So the way it's looking now is it's looking as if Steph Curry is going to blow past John Stockton in just total points. Obviously, Steph is a greater offensive player. With regards to rebounds, again, I got to be fair about rebounds. Steph Curry just gets the opportunity to rebound the ball more because of the way the game is played. But he's more than likely going to blow past John Stockton in rebounds as well. Steph Curry gets that. Steph Curry will not catch John Stockton in assists. There's no way he catches him in assists. This is what John Stockton did. And I think John Stockton passed the ball too much so. And I think because he was such a willing passer, it hurt his team, because a lot of people don't understand that this man was also a great scorer. In the 1990 playoffs, this man averaged 27 points a game. 27 points a game. Any player in the playoffs who can average 27 points a game, you are a great scorer. And again, I think he passed the ball so much so it was a detriment to his team. Yes, he put up great assist numbers, but the Utah Jazz needed more scoring, especially in those playoff series against the Houston Rockets, especially in some of those first-round losses to Seattle and the Phoenix Suns, especially in the finals against the Chicago Bulls. They needed more scoring, and I wish Jerry Sloan was able to change his philosophy up some and tell Stockton to emphasize scoring the ball more as opposed to trying to be a playmaker passer so much. Again, we got steals. I'm not for sure here on this particular category. It looks as if this is something, maybe Steph Curry can catch John Stockton in total steals. I don't know. I think that might be a wash right there. I think they might be pretty much even, but again, that will be a story to tell at a later date. Blocks, again, an irrelevant category. 4 point guards, and then we have total games. Obviously, we know John Stockton played a lot more games because Steph Curry's still playing. Now we got our percentages. I love percentages because percentages really, really expose a lot. You can't use longevity when it comes to percentages. Your percentage is what it is. It tells what you do normally, what you do on the average basis. Now, with Steph Curry, his field goal percentage is 47. John Stockton is 51. Again, John Stockton did not look to score the ball as much. He shot fewer shots. Field goal percentage, 51%. Steph Curry, 47% field goal percentage, but he shoots the ball a lot more. He's the go-to scorer for his team in most seasons. So because he shoots a high volume of shots, to be able to shoot 47% is great. Again, I hold it against Stockton that he did not shoot the ball more because he was a great scorer. I think that was a detriment to his career. Three-point shooting, we know Steph Curry's the far superior three-point shooter, 43% on his career. John Stockton could make the three. Again, he just did not shoot enough of them. But John Stockton hit the three at 38%. Free throw percentage. Now, you would think John Stockton would be a 90% free throw shooter. He wasn't. Steph Curry is 90% for his career. And what makes that 90% for Steph Curry even greater is the fact that he goes to the free throw line so many times. He goes to the free throw line so many times. So you would assume his percentage would drop if he misses. He's consistently shot at a 90% clip every season. He takes pride in not missing free throws. Now, we're going to go to their best season. Steph Curry's best season scoring the ball, 30.1 points a game. John Stockton, 17.2. Again, John Stockton is a player in the 1990 playoffs who averaged 27 points per game. 27 points per game. His best scoring season overall, It was 17.2 points a game. They needed more scoring out of him. And again, that was in 1990. So we see in 1990 when he averaged 17.2 points a game, he could score the ball. He had the aptitude to go score the ball. For whatever reason, that Utah philosophy did not call for him being aggressive offensively. Again, I think that was a detriment to Utah's ability to win championships. Rebounds per game. Obviously, Steph is going to have higher rebounding numbers. John Stockton, again, in 1990, 14.5 assists per game. 14.5 assists per game. I mean, the man averaged 17.2 points per game and 14.5 points per game. Now I see why they chose John Stockton over Isaiah Thomas going into the Dream Team for the Dream Team Olympics. This is why. The man was an extremely good scorer. The man was a great passer. Again, in 1990, Isaiah Thomas was on the tail end of his career. This is why John Stockton was selected. So for a lot of people who say that Isaiah Thomas was blackballed, yes, he was probably blackballed to some degree because of his antics on the court, because of some of the antics that the Pistons did. But at the end of the day, John Stockton was no slouch. He was a great player in his own. Steals per game. Best season, Steph Curry 2.1, John Stockton 3.2. And a lot of people, you need to understand, 3.2 steals a game, to average that on a season is extremely hard. But, again, when you have advantages defensively, such as hand checking and the ability to be more physical, again, that kind of skews your numbers. So, again, if John Stockton were to play in this era where he couldn't hand check, where his foot speed was a lot slower, and he would get in more foul trouble, I don't know if those steals numbers would be the same. But you got to commend them for being able to go out and get 3.2 steals per game. All right, so we got to go down to their playoff stats. Playoff stats, again, scoring-wise, Steph Curry, 26.5 points a game. This is going to far exceed John Stockton's. When you look at John Stockton's playoff average, the man went to the playoffs, I think, every year in the 1990s. He only averaged 13.4 points per game. You know, why is that? Now, he could score the ball. He can score the ball. Why didn't he? I think, again, his playmaking ability was a detriment to the team's overall success. Because if he turned into more of a scorer and he was able to take up more of that scoring load with Karl Malone, I think they could have went farther into the playoffs. Rebounds per game, again, this is a wash category because, again, different eras allow. I think if Stockton played in this era, he would probably be averaging around 5 rebounds a game because, again, more threes are taken. Those rebounds are getting collected by guards. Assists per game, John Stockton, 10 assists a game in the playoffs was that's what he averaged. Again, you guys don't understand how hard it is to average 10 assists a game. A lot of people say if you're playing with Steph, Clay, and these guys, it's easy to average 10 assists a game. No, that's not how the NBA works. Steph and Clay are not just running off screens. They create for themselves. They score in transition. They do a number of other things to score the ball. And sometimes when you pass them the ball, sometimes they miss shots. They don't make everything. So getting 10 assists a game is extremely hard. That's why you got to give credit to John Stockton for what he did passing the ball. Steals per game, again, it's one of those categories where I know John Stockton was slightly better defensively because of his defensive IQ. But when I look at these steal stats, again, I have to credit some of that to the era. And again, hand checking is not a positive. And there's a lot of people say that you couldn't hand check in the 90s. What I want you to understand, if you are a basketball player, hand checking is not a skill set. Hand checking is not a talent. Hand checking is something anybody can do on any level. All you have to do is stick a forearm out or stick an arm out and hold your man. It's not a talent. It's what you do a lot of times when the guy in front of you is a far superior player or athlete. This is what they did to Jordan throughout the entire 90s. All right. So, the fact that they were able to do that to Jordan throughout the entire 90s shows that he was a superior offensive player because he played through the hand checking. But it does not give credit to the people playing defense because, again, sticking your hand out, hand checking somebody is not a skill. It doesn't take talent to do that. Again, what you're doing is you're giving yourself an advantage by holding a player in front of you. Again, that's just not good basketball. Blocks per game, again, another irrelevant stat. So we got the total stats for the playoffs. Steph Curry's already passed up John Stockton in the playoffs. You know, your best players have to score the ball in the playoffs. This is something that John Stockton and his coaching, they never really understood this particular philosophy. He needed to step up in the playoffs to score. Just relying on Karl Malone and some of the other guys around him just did not get the job done. Total rebounds in the playoffs, I mean, in 11 years, Steph Curry's able to amass 604. Steph Curry or John Stockton is only at 608. So this is something that at the end of their careers, Steph Curry's going to blow them out the door on those rebounds in the playoffs. Assist, again, this is a number that nobody's really going to be able to touch. Not Steph Curry, even Chris Paul. He might not come close to this. He may. I don't know. I haven't seen his numbers. But Steph Curry, at the end of his career, he's probably going to be around 1,400 assists in the playoffs. This is a very good number, especially for somebody who has so much work to do on the offensive end. Then we have blocks and steals. Again, we've explained that. That's been a bit repetitive. Again, with the hand checking, I don't give 90s players as much credit defensively because the refs allowed a lot more. It was an uglier game. Defensive players had an advantage because they were able to. There was essentially a foul that was allowed by rule that they could utilize to keep you handicapped on offense. And again, the percentages in the playoffs, fairly similar. John Stockton's three-point field goal percentage significantly dropped in the playoffs. It went down to 32%. That's not a very good three-point field goal percentage, especially for a good shooter. And John Stockton was a good shooter. John Stockton's free throw percentage went down in the playoffs to 81%. Again, with John Stockton, he didn't shoot a lot of free throws. So the fact that he was only hitting 81%, again, for as good of a shooter he was, I wanted to see him in the 90%. Steph Curry's at 90%, consistent with what he normally does. 40% from the three-point line, consistently what he normally does in the regular season. And both of their averages dropped field goal percentage-wise in the playoffs because we know playoff defense is just a little bit more intense. So their best playoff performances, we see John Stockton averaged 27.3 points a game in 1989. We know he can go score the ball. We know John Stockton can go score the ball. Why they did not give him more set plays? Why they didn't unhandcuff him, and let him be the focal scoring point to help Karl Malone? I don't know. But Steph Curry, 2015, unstoppable in the playoffs. They led him to a championship over LeBron James. Rebounds, Steph Curry has that. Steph Curry's best playoff, 8.4 assists per game. That's not bad. John Stockton, 15. The average 15 assists a game in the playoffs. I mean, what that shows you right there is John Stockton was a low-key ball-dominant guard. He dominated the basketball a lot. The offense was ran through him. Similar to LeBron James, they relied on John Stockton to make the home run play. He just did it in a different fashion. So a lot of people knock LeBron James because he's seeking out that scoring play. He's always trying to find the best play, making the best pass. John Stockton did that his entire career. He did it his entire career. Again, because you do that, it depends on what type of team you have around you. Is it necessarily a bad thing? No. Can it be a detriment to your team's success? Yes. Because obviously we see that John Stockton was never able to win a championship. We see that LeBron James, he went 3-6 in the NBA Finals. He struggled because, again, you cannot always make the home run play. Always trying to make the home run play. What it does is it frustrates the players around you, and it frustrates you as a player when you see players not making open shots. It's a talent to be a spot-up shooter. It's not something that every player can do. All right, so understanding that, so I think just the same way LeBron James probes and tries to find the home run play, John Stockton did the same thing, and it was a detriment to both of their careers. If John Stockton took up more of a scoring role, I think maybe they beat the Bulls in one of those championships. If he changed his style of play up, and Jerry Sloan wasn't willing to do that. So again, at the end of the day, we review these players, man. We've reviewed both of these players. At the end of the day, I have to say that Steph Curry is the far superior player. He's the far superior player. Primarily, again, what my basis on selecting these players my basis on selecting these players is going to be purely off of the 90s fan standard. This way no one can say I'm biased. The 90s fan standard always starts with championships. The same way Jordan 6-0 in the finals, and he's a champion, far superior record to LeBron's. I have to look at championships first. Steph Curry is a champion. Steph Curry was the best player on a championship team. All right, Steph Curry is the 2-time MVP. There was a point in time where Steph Curry was considered the best player in the NBA for at least 2 years. John Stockton was never considered the best player in the NBA. He was considered the best passer in the NBA. He was never considered the best scorer in the NBA. Steph Curry was considered for a few years to be the best scorer in the NBA. So I think Steph Curry's dominance carries him in this right here. He's not just the better winner, but he's also the best player on his team. And again, we give the being a great floor general to John Stockton, but at the same time, as a floor general, one of the things that hurt him was that he probed for assists too much. He sought out the home run play too much. And I think because he was seeking the home run play so much, it hurt his ability to actually go score the ball, which was something that he could do, and which I think that cost him championships as well. But again, this is my opinion. You guys let me know what you think. Do you think John Stockton's a better player than Steph Curry? Again, I tried to give a fair analysis of this. We're also going to be doing shooting guards, small forwards, power forwards, and centers. We're going to pick the 2 best of each area. We're going to put them up head to head. And then at the end of the day, we're going to see who comes out ahead. Is the top of the 90s better than the top of this era? There's only one way to find out. We got to pit the best of the best. And so right now, this era is up 1-0 because Steph Curry is the far superior player to John Stockton. And make sure you guys let me know what you think about that. Hit me up in the comments. Hit us up on Instagram or Twitter. Let us know what you think. I love doing these videos. I love doing these player comparisons because, again, you really have to sit down. Even sometimes when you have questions about certain things, you may have to go back and just watch some video. Even when I watched video on John Stockton, I saw how good he was defensively. He was very good, but he did use the hand check very effectively. Without the hand check, how effective would he be in this era? So again, there are a lot of things that I have to implement into this particular decision. But at the end of the day, I think this is a pretty easy one. I think 90s fans and fans of this era will definitely agree that Steph Curry is the far superior player in this particular conversation. But again, hey, FYF Sports, man. Again, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, do all of that good stuff. And we will definitely be back with more of these videos. Next up, we're going to be doing power forwards. So we're going to be putting the best power forwards of our era against the best power forward of the 90s, and we'll see how it goes. FYF Sports, man. Another great video, and we out.